we celebrated our Independence Day. We conducted flag raising ceremonies, offering of flowers. Um, Yearly we're doing that. But again, I am coming from the idea of critiquing these things. We still fail to critique if are we really independent. For example, the use of our own language is a form of decolonizing, of liberating ourselves, that we are now free to use our own language. But in the Philippines, we have representatives, we have individuals of power, of authority, who do not want our learners to use our or their mother tongue or their own language. That is why as I mentioned earlier, I am saying that I am a staunch advocate of mother tongue, because we are advocating for our learners. We are trying to decolonize the system, the kind of thinking that is only in English, that you can only be economically powerful or capable if you know English. That is not. I am seeing from your university profile earlier, from the advertisement that you presented earlier, that you are free of using your own language. And again, that is one thing that I admire from to your in your country. Also empowering marginalized communities by decolonizing our educational system, that we only know this kind of education. We are without looking into the communities, that the community should have the power to decide for their curriculum, for example. We can empower them. We should be empowering our communities, promoting also local knowledge and sustainability. There are times that that we are introducing innovations, but this is not sustainable. And maybe the clue there why to answering why is it not sustainable is because we are not anchoring it through our tradition, local knowledge, to our local wisdom. Next is on critical thinking and global citizenship. When we say to decolonize, we are trying to question the power structure. Again, I am coming from the idea that we were colonized. We are trying to question that when I sit down here in the classroom, that when my teacher said you have to sit down from 8 o'clock, for example, up to this time, uh, what kind of in what kind of educational system I am. If my culture is on community participation, is for freedom or liberty of doing things with responsibility. So we will be decolonizing our educational system, we are training our learners to question. One time I had a conversation with my undergrad students. Also, I saw I have undergrad students here, my students from college, and also students from the graduate school of our university. So thank you very much also for attending this lecture. So he mentioned in the lesson plan that you always listen to the teacher. So listening to to the teacher. But I mean, coming from the idea of critiquing this smaller part in the lesson plan, should we not just be listening to our teacher, but also trying to question our teacher? You try to ask, not question that is provoking, but also try to ask. But because it is when we are engaged in asking question, that when we are engaged in a conversation, that we can learn. And that is now our introduction to global citizenship. That you can only be a part of the global world if you know your position, if you know where you are coming from, because you know how to ask. Because if you will be going to a community that you do not know how to ask, that you will just follow, and you will not be critiquing. You will just be assimilated to that culture, to that language, to that society, and you are not your own right now. You're not that part of global citizenship that recognizes diversity. Also, addressing Eurocentrism and the colonial legacy, we have to address that. And this is happening in different countries also, that they are trying to make their own curriculum, their own legacy and practice. Their own legacy and practice, and also moving away from their colonial legacy. Uh, um, this is something that is very difficult in the Philippines, and difficult in the same way that for us researchers this is motivating if you are a researcher really wanting to serve your country or your community. And also engaging in post-colonial healing and reconciliation. We all know that there are still individuals who experience this colonialism who are still living right now, that this is still painful to them. This is still a painful story for them. For us in the Philippines, we still have indigenous peoples who were asked to move from their places because the colonizers want this place. That is why when we decolonize our education system, we can engage to post-colonial healing and also in reconciliation. One way of critiquing the paradigms for promoting cultural diversity is through, for example, we're always submitting ourselves to international metrics. Here in the Philippines, the PISA score in 2018 is very it shocked everyone. Because again, if you can see in the picture here, we flunked the exam, the PISA exam. During that time, as I am also an I as again as I am an advocate of MTBMLE, they were saying that the reason why we flunk PISA is because the mother tongue based multilingual education, because our learners now are using their own language. That is why they're asking to bring back the English language to the classroom and stop learners kindergarten to grade 3 learning your mother tongue and you go back to English. They're saying that. But really, there is a colonial or Eurocentric paradigm in the PISA, because our learners who are learning mathematics, who are learning science, reading in their own language, in their own mother tongues, were tested through English. This is a principle in education that whatever language you use in teaching, that is also the language of assessment. And by submitting our learners to that kind of examination that is not suitable for us, but to comply with the standards of the West, our learners were not empowered. Again, they flunked the exam. They said that this is now the not so good generation because of this result. And that is why we have to critique this Eurocentric paradigms. And there are times, there are different international learning metrics that will always say that there are success stories. So the possibility is we are not aligning our teaching, for example, the assessment, or the possibility is that our ideology to what should we be teaching to our learners. Now, here are ways to integrate local knowledge. I'm not preaching you from theories, because you can search everything of this in the internet, but through experience also. For example, in the first picture, we're engaging with our potters here in Ilocos Norte in the Philippines. We're engaging them, we're collaborating with them. So when you collaborate with them, it's the start that you can now our curriculum that we are teaching. That when you collaborate with them, you can listen to what the community needs. And from now that you now identified what should be in the curriculum, what is the need of the community, you can now now number three is on language revitalization. We know that local wisdom is orally transferred, meaning we are transferring it through mouth when we speak. Not only is but we sing. Because not only in the streets, but there are also Ilocos Norte that instead of speaking, we know that if it is orally transferred, the medium is language. That is why we have to revitalize our language. Now, from this, we can also draw inclusive pedagogical approaches. What learning teaching styles, teaching styles can you have based on observing how this family of potters transfer their skills, their knowledge to their young members of the family? Are they writing modules? Are they writing on the board? Are they asking these children to sit down and then later on take a quiz? But they are just watching there, trying to you can or I mean we're talking about research and you can be writing a research that is storytelling as a teaching strategy. That is really a teaching strategy, a kind of storytelling that is happening in the community. Can you, if you look at the picture, can you see that the chair is too small? The chair is too small, and the reason is they really intended to cut the chair because they want to sit near the floor so that they can, while they're telling stories, they can work on the on pottery and also collaborate with each other and sit like that in circles. And you know, they said that when you're working in this position in circles, you're speaking in these circles, you are not talking behind each other's back. Because for example, in the typical classroom that learners are arranged in rows, in rows, there are possibilities that a learner is talking there at the back, then the learner is just facing it in front. But here you can see each other faces. That is again another layer of interaction, of engagement, or maybe also a form of learning when you can see each other's faces. Also, teacher training and professional development. Your faculties on teacher training, and you can really capitalize on um, the local wisdom on your traditional industries. Also, resource development, the development of your materials, community involvement, and also ethical consideration that we have to think of that we are entering now another territory, the territory of our communities that is really not so much touched by the scholarship or by the academia. When I work with learners with disabilities based on their it's indigenous value system. I will not be teaching but the kind of self-care methodologies and also the curriculum that is based on that. And you will be trying we have this learn to support him or herself. But that is not available in the community. What is available in the community is only the bamboos. That the neighborhoods connected to its neighbors so that the child with who has difficulty in walking can still roam around the community. So that is one indigenous knowledge they invented, or local wisdom that they invented in order to support a member of the community. Now, let's now go to the concept of cultural sensitivity, which also refers to cross-cultural sensitivity, that you are sensitive, that you are living in a diverse community, in a diverse world. Most of the time, and this also happened in, I mean, even inside the country, in the Philippines, discrimination or cultural discrimination is also happening. For example, there are tendencies that if you are not very much aware of the diversity in the Philippines, that you as an author will write that the Igorot, for example, or the peoples of our Cordillera or the mountain ranges in the Philippines have kinky hair or short and black. But no, they do not look like that. And that is posting cultural insensitivity. But here, when we decolonize our education, that when we recognize that we are not only one, we are not homogeneous, but we are of different. I receive a message. Yes, maybe I have to make it fast. Yes. Okay. So for example, incorporating local wisdom, we have here cultural sensitivity. And here, for example, we can have a number of skills from watching a person or joining those who are making banga or this pottery. You can have here from the time that they dug up the soil, the ground to get the soil that is really chemical now or chemistry now. Then how will you assemble or mold the clay that is now on the manipulative skills of our learners. This is really now the local wisdom that we are still or which still wait for us to be incorporated or integrated in our curriculum. Also, the salient features of the Philippine K to 12 curriculum can be interpreted through the local wisdom integration. Again, that integration of local wisdom is really part of the law that benefits of mother tongue based multilingual education. When our learners are using their languages, they're making their or education culturally relevant. There's also the incorporation of local knowledge, the interdisciplinary community involvement and respect of indigenous languages. Or yes, in the Philippines, we also have this indigenous people's education. They have their separate kind of or framework for for their education. That really we have to we have to be sensitive that this education that we are having is really the education that is rightful for them because that is based on their community. Contextualization and localization is also a part of our educational system here, and this is really a promising research and development aspect for people like us. And also through the local wisdom, we can foster cultural heritage and also the community of practice. When we say local knowledge, it's holistic development. Most of the holistic because, for example, I do not know if you have this kind of practice in Indonesia. We have this atang or the Ilocano food offering, and we are offering it to Kararwa. Kararwa in Ilocano is our soul, the soul system. In Ilocano, we do not have one soul. We do not have two souls. We have four souls. The soul for which is our constant companion, a traveler, and also another soul. That when we say atang, that is not only a food for the dead, a food offering, but that is also for your body, for your soul that travels, and also the reason, the psychology, because you are trying to be a member again of the dead ones. Also in our language is the wisdom, for example, in our cardinal directions. We have let's have the basic, the angin, or the north, south, east, and west. We call that amyanan because amyan is the local term for north wind. And it's the place of north wind. That is why it's amyan. Abagat because that is now Abagat is now the south wind. Daya is the east because Daya or Raya, the ray of the sun. And Laod, the Laot, because this now there is now the for us we refer to that as the West Philippine Sea, and we can only know that if we have vast idea of our local wisdom. How can we do that? Let me go now to research and development. How can we do that? It's through research and development. However, we have to be cautious of doing research in local wisdoms or in going to our community. According to Linda Tuhiwai Smith, research is the dirtiest word in the indigenous world because it's research that they try to justify their colonialization or the colonizing activity that they did. That is why we have to do it cautiously, that we have to respect that we are entering a sacred community or sacred territory. And also again, if you will you can do liberate or decolonize now your practices, particularly in education. So again, incorporating local wisdom in research and development will unique insight in solving local languages and addressing specific needs. Most of the time, our solutions are based on the West or based on this. We're not trying to go to the level of the community to ask what solutions can you provide, and maybe we can have there that they can solve this problem. Also the deeper understanding of the local context. One time I went to Bukidnon, I spoke with the shaman there. She talked about how they took care of the mountains, the field, the bukid, and how the sky now is different from the sky that they knew then. Here's one model framework that we are implementing. Maybe I will just be sending this for the interest of time. And yes, for the interest of time, that we are trying to get the knowledge system from our industries develop lesson exemplars. Then we can see here teacher support, instructional assessment strategy, its alignment with the curriculum, then doing curriculum audit, then development now of the it must be serious. Again, in Indonesia, I am reading a lot about your country, and I think your government is really towards that recognizing of your culture, and we pray that we will also have the same vigor here in the Philippines, and also recommendations for further research and development based on local wisdoms. I just enumerated here. I will be sending you the complete paper. I am sorry for consuming a lot of your time. And also here for collaborations, maybe you can we can collaborate with this. I know that we have our standing memorandum of understanding between our universities, and we can work onto this suggestions. So from here, thank you very much for listening, and I'm very sorry for our language yaman from our language in the Cordillera. Maraming salamat from our language in the and Rimaki, I think
Thank
that's
you,
your
Tehano, for
language.
the
So
outstanding lecture. It is truly new knowledge for us, sir. Also an eye-opener that this world is very rich with culture. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to invite your participation. If you have any question, please just raise your hand and identify yourself. For this session, maybe I'll limit for 3 questionnaires. Silakan teman-teman yang mau bertanya. Muhammad Rizky, monggo silakan bisa langsung unmute.
Mohon maaf Bu, ini pertanyaannya boleh memakai bahasa Indonesia saja?
Kalau bisa bahasa Inggris ya, speakernya native soalnya.
Oh iya Bu.
Ya.
Jadi saya Muhammad Rizky Wibisono dari Prodi PGSD angkatan 2022. Pertanyaannya, how can teach
Iya, gimana?
that the integration of local wisdom in basic education does not become a kind of exotism or cultural shelter that is preserved but truly reflects a genuine appreciation for existing cultural diversity.
Rizky, bisa diketik saja di chat box. Soalnya kurang jelas.
Oh ya, mohon maaf Bu.
Sorry, sir. Can you understand the question, sir?
Maybe I will try to rephrase it, then you please tell me if I got it right. From what I understood is you're trying to ask me if it will lead to what, xenophobic, for example, that kind of integration. Is that right?
He already write in the chat box, sir. May I
Okay.
read it, sir?
Okay.
The question from Rizky: how can teacher ensure that the integration of local wisdom in basic education does not become a kind of exotism or cultural cliche that is preserved but truly reflects a genuine appreciation for existing cultural diversity?
Yes, thank you very much. You know, that decolonization and also integration of local wisdom is also a very critical discussion here in the Philippines, because most of the time they're trying to not to integrate, but to focus only on that. That is now exotism, that you will not be allowing other lenses also. For example, you will just be saying, for example, in our context, you will just be saying that you will just use Ilocano, and you will not be accepting other things. The answer here is the role of the teacher as the judge, because we should have the proper principle of pedagogy, where should this culture or local wisdom be placed in the curriculum, and what are the other things that we should be getting from other lenses. For example, as I mentioned in the lecture, it's critiquing or asking, we try to question the Western philosophy or the Western lenses. We question because and also we cannot say that everybody from us is correct. That is why I think the teacher there should stand and should have the right principle. That is why I think the teacher there should stand and should have the right principle. Pottery, right? You saw that picture. So how is the mathematics there in the pottery? And the person or our key informant will say that we will just count how many pail of soil, how many pail of soil can we get from from that pit. Will that be what a good mathematics in the Western lens, for example? So, and also, will that be denial of pail as a measurement in mathematics be of hurt from you? So what I'm trying to say here is, above all, we are educators here. We're talking about the same principles of education. That is what we should be having local wisdom. Because again, this wisdom are always or should always be subjected to questions. We're familiar with learn, unlearn, relearn. But for me, it's always learn, critique, critique, what throw away if you find that not suitable. But it is important to critique, that you should not be going through that extreme exoticism. um that's my answer.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Tejano, for the feedback. And maybe there are more questions from you guys. Prisma?
I want to. I have question. What is the most effective approach to achieving ethnocentrism in the context of elementary education, considering the children are highly susceptible to the influence of what is taught or practiced?
Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry, I wasn't able to hear it properly. There was a sound interrupting.
Yeah.
uh,
What is the
yes.
best approach for integrating ethnocentrism in elementary school learning, sir, in learning process. As we know that children is maybe they're not really familiar with the ethnic at their age.
Yes. I do not know why they are not familiar. That is a principle in education that when we start our teaching, we have to start to something that is familiar to them. If it is not familiar to them, do not teach that. We always have to start with something on something which is familiar to them. In our case, for example, maybe I will just go again to pottery because that is the latest project that I am conducting. They have, or the existing integration material that they have is for kindergarten to junior high school. So not kindergarten, grade 4 to junior high school. That they are using, they have modules in teaching them how to work on this pottery, what are the sciences that they can get into that. But for us, we are working now to kindergarten and grade 3. Again, we for example in the pottery, I will not be integrating the pottery in a community who are not familiar of pottery. I will be integrating that culture of pottery in the community where the pottery is located, because again, we talk about meeting local needs. It will not be served in the community if it is officially meeting the local needs. So I should be teaching that or integrating pottery in the learning of those who are in the pottery community, making or assure that they are familiar of in the teaching is from known to unknown. It is also not equivalent to saying that we should not they are.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tejano. And the next, Hanun, maybe. You can unmute.
Yeah, thank you for giving me a chance to ask some question. I'm Hanuna Zifa from in the context of increasing globalization and migration student. How can we address ethnocentrism and how the question is how does cultural assimilation impact the preservation of indigenous culture and what the some example? Thanks.
Yes, thank you. Maybe I should start with clarifying ethnocentrism. We do not be on the same page on understanding ethnocentrism. On my to you, because on my part ethnocentrism, if you too much love yourself, too much love your culture, is that will that capture the definition that you know, Miss Hanon? Yes. Yes, we have to recognize too much love that is a popular song here in the Philippines. That you, if you too much love your culture and that you are not loving other culture also, it will not kill you, but it will shrink you. You will not grow in this global world, in this very world. So that is why we should not be again, as I mentioned, we should always be discerning. We should be critiquing what part of my culture should I love, what part of, or how should I love this, how can I love this with responsibility, how can I love this, but I can also love other cultures and appreciate. For example, I myself is a Tagalog from because I was born there in the central and the main, I mean the capital of Manila. But later on, I went, or we went to Ilocos Norte. From then, I too much love Tagalog, and as I mentioned in my introduction, I am writing poetry in Tagalog. I mean, if it is poetry, it is coming from the heart. You cannot write poetry if you do not have that kind of love. Then later on, if I when I went to Ilocos, I learned to love it also, and other cultures. I mean, you cannot embark, or we cannot embark to this internationalization. We cannot embark and be part of the global community if we first do not know ourselves. So we have to know where we are. Then later on, if we appreciate now where we are, our culture, we can also appreciate other cultures. For example, right now, as I mentioned, I appreciate so much your opening program earlier, because it is really rooted on your culture, rooted on your religion, on your practice. That's my long answer in the short
Thank you.
question.
And next, Jasmine, and the last maybe Bianca. Jasmine first. Masih di mute, still on mute.
Thank you for the opportunity. Hello, Mr. Ciano. My name is Corina Yasmin. I'm fourth semester of elementary school education program. I want to ask about how what do you think the biggest influence the ecocentrism of about ethnocentrism? So, uh, as we know, of countries in Asia have a many culture.
Can you repeat the topic? But we have commissioners representing all sorts of the languages that is trying to share the power or distribute also the development of wisdom. So that's the answer.
All right, Jasmine, how is it? I hope clear.
Yeah, Miss. Thank you.
Thank you. And Bianca, please.
Thank you for the opportunity. I wanna ask about secondary school teacher myself.
to face challenges and obstacles related to ethnocentrism in teaching, and how can they enhance their competence in this regard? Thank you.
Yes, I think the question should be thrown to the faculty of teacher training, rector in the college of education. What we're doing is we are preparing curriculums where our teachers are really immersed to the industries in the community. So for example, if you're a teacher from this place, we will be developing a curriculum that you are immersed to that place so that you can better integrate and you can better meet the needs of your community. The latest project that I'm having right now is the development of curriculum for those future teachers who are coming from indigenous peoples group or indigenous communities, because most of the time teachers in indigenous communities or teachers in indigenous peoples education schools do not have any idea of um, the indigenous cultures, and what they are doing is just changing the names. For example, they do not have giraffe in the community, but that is the story. They will just change the giraffe to calling that integration or localization or contextualization, and that is wrong. That is why I think the question of pairing of our teachers is should be thrown to our teacher training institutions, and that is why we're having this kind of conversation. um we will be glad here in the College of Teacher Education and also in MMSU to share our practices with your university so that um, we can better serve our learners. So thank you very much.
Yeah, we're looking forward for it, sir. For our next kerjasama, what do we call? And the last question maybe from Inam.
Thank you for attention, Miss. Let me introduce myself, Mr. Tejano. My name is Muhammad Inamansori from Elementary School Education Study Program. It question for you, and my question is, sorry, can the way we educate about reduce the ethnocentrism of certain group? And please teach us, the future teachers, what ways do we need to education elementary student? Thank you very much.
Can you please repeat the question? I do not know. There are sounds interfering in my
Too
audio.
fast. It's too fast, Inam. Can you type it or
Yes.
bisa diketik atau diulang lebih pelan? Nah ini. Can the way we educate about brotherhood reduce the ethnocentrism of certain groups? And please teach us, future teacher, what ways do we need to educate elementary students? What do you mean with brotherhood? Do you get about brotherhood, sir? Mr.
Yes. Is brotherhood mean, for example, cooperation, unity, like that?
I don't really get it too. In maybe. What do you mean with brotherhood?
Yes, can I mean?
Ah, okay. Now, if you want brotherhood, you want cooperation, you want unity, there are some adjustments that you will be recognizing, and that will, I think, reduce the ethnocentrism of certain groups. I am not familiar of the ethnocentrism you have there in Indonesia, but for example, again, I will be getting I will be citing my own self or my own ethno-linguistic group as somehow ethnocentric. You know what? One time we went to the University of the Philippines. That is the National University of the Philippines. and we were called the ethnocentric Philippines because really we're too, we there are books, there are history books who are saying that the Ilocanos are the bullies of the bullies. You know what bullies are? Bullies of Northern Luzon, because the Northern Luzon speaks languages. But you know what? In these 52 languages, the lingua franca is Ilocano. And also, if you look at the you see the Ilocanos are the assistants of the friars, of the priests, going around to evangelize this group of people. But also, during the time that they came, very until very you the at among now writing with in a very diverse country, that if you that the values that you should be espousing in a nation of very diverse population is to let of their own no understanding their own culture and understanding the cultures of their neighbors too. You can cite that as an event also in the classroom. Inside the classroom, you have different learners. If you will teach a learner that the seatmate um no because it has or this it has different ability can reduce the ethnocentrism from certain groups. Talking about we are talking about right now, we are put